organization. We were founded a little over a year ago, just before everything shut down. And we work, or at least our goals are, our goal is to work throughout the county to, develop sustainable communities and do whatever we can to help educate people and provide them with the resources that they need to create a more sustainable Putnam. And we are working with businesses, with local governments, and with other nonprofit organizations to help folks do that and make that transition. And so I'm going to put our contact info in the chat. I've introduced myself. Karina Ricard-Frazan is a representative of Ampion Renewable Energy, and she'll be speaking to you shortly. Whoops, I'm sorry. I've got.
I was gonna say I'm not on the steering committee.
You're not Sustainable Warwick. I cheated and I used an old slide and I didn't finish changing it. But anyway, yeah, Karina lives here in Putnam County, and it was just kind of a stroke of luck that we happened to meet, and we're working together now on a community solar partnership, and that's the bulk of what we want to talk about tonight. But why go solar? I think is kind of a good way to start. Obviously, climate change is, I think, on the forefront of most Americans' minds now. The pandemic has been obviously an important distraction and an important thing to deal with. But as we begin to overcome that, I think people are coming back to the realization that, we've got another major issue on our plates here. And we're really fortunate to be living in New York State, where the laws and the government have really taken the bull by the horns, so to speak, and not only created charted a pathway to a sustainable future, but have put into place the laws and even the funding necessary to make that happen. It's really just incredible. I would argue that New York State is actually the #1 state when it comes to trying to address the Paris Climate Accord targets of eliminating our carbon emissions. In New York State, we have this goal of, by 2030, getting 70% of our electricity from renewable sources, and by 2040, completely carbon-free renewable electricity. That's a big, heavy lift, right? And in order to do that, we've got to use all means at our disposal. So obviously, solar is an important piece of that puzzle, but not everybody can put solar on their roof, right? And even if your roof is okay for solar, you might not have the money to put it on, right? It's a big outlay of cash. You can lease, there's all kinds of options, but that's what we're going to talk about. So, and New York State offers great tax incentives and so forth. So this is a little overwhelming, I know, to look at, but fear not. You do not have to answer all these questions right now or tonight. But this is a very helpful kind of decision tree that a friend of mine from Sustainable Warwick, with whom I've done a similar presentation before, Michael Helm, he created this decision tree to help people make the decision about what type of solar is right for them. I think solar is right for everybody. It's just a question of which type. And so, in answering these questions, you can figure out whether it's, actually putting photovoltaic panels on your roof, a PV system on your roof, or whether or not it's a community solar share purchase, which I've kind of, crossed out there because there's no share purchase program available in our area right now. So just to avoid confusion, that's not an option for us right now. Or a community solar share subscription, the third box from the left there, which is something that Ampion and other companies also offer. Or a community solar program that's called Solar for All, that's available for low-income New Yorkers, that will save you $10 to $15 off of your electric bill every month at no cost to you. So there is actually a way for every New Yorker to go solar, and that is the good news. And that is, I mean, it's really just a question of which one do you choose? You know, everyone can and should go solar. It drives me nuts when friends of mine who I talk to all the time, I tell them, I give them this this speech, and they're still like, "Yeah, I haven't done it yet. Yeah, I got to do that." Like, yeah, you gotta. There's no reason to wait, really. Um, anyway, this decision tree I'm going to make available to you in a Google form. And so all you'll have to do, I don't want you to get bogged down in doing that tonight, but all you have to do is answer the questions. And depending on your answer, it will lead you to one of these four choices. It's that simple. And you can even go back and revise your answers. So for example, the first question, can you currently afford a long-term investment, either cash or a manageable loan? Well, you might be thinking to yourself, well, what does that mean, a long-term investment? How much money are we talking about, right? So you might need to figure that out before you can answer the question. You'd always go back and change your answer. Do you plan to stay in your current home for the foreseeable future? Today, you might say yes. Tomorrow, you might say no, right? The things change, life changes. But anyway, you can always use that as a resource, and it's also will be available shortly on the Sustainable Putnam website.
I think
Hey,
Bonnie has a
Joe?
question.
Yeah, go
Yes.
ahead, Bonnie.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
see one other consideration that I know me personally I've gone through, whether or not it's affordable for me. There's a part of me, there's a part of me that says, why own it if I can still get the benefit, whether or not my house is, great for solar or not. Why own it when I can get the benefit by doing community solar? It's kind of like, why have CDs when you could just get your music in the cloud?
Right.
So there's that, you don't need to start, I feel, you don't need to start with, can you afford a long-term investment? It's also, philosophical. Do you feel like you need to own the
Yeah.
hardware, or are you okay with, using another resource?
Yeah, that's a great point. That really is a good point. Yeah, if you look at, I think this decision tree is kind of purely economic, a purely economic,
Yeah.
viewpoint. Because if you can afford the long-term investment, I'm just, recalling the way Michael, addressed this. If you can afford the long-term investment, it pays to install solar
I'm just getting this out of the
more
way
than
so I can put this
community
down.
solar.
Mm-hmm.
If I could just ask everybody to mute themselves while you're not speaking, thanks. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I'll make this available in the chat as a Google form link, and again, it'll be available on our website shortly. Whoop. All right. So I mentioned Solar for All. I just want to kind of quickly point out this will give you some idea of whether or not you're eligible, or if people are eligible. And I would really strongly encourage you to share this, because it's a very little known program. Most New Yorkers are not familiar with it. And if depending on your family size, how many people you're living with in your household, you might be eligible. And it is quite easy to sign up, and I can help you to do that. Aside from being chair of Sustainable Putnam, I'm also trained as a volunteer energy navigator with Cornell Cooperative Extension. I like to say I'm like the energy version of the master gardener, but maybe that's not even accurate. But at any rate, I can help you sign up for any NYSERDA program that's available to residents. And I can put you in touch with folks at Cornell Cooperative Extension that are, work on this full time, that are professionals. Okay, so yeah, community solar or Solar for All is a really great option for most. Whoops. Yeah, I don't know how that slide got in there again. So I'm going to turn it over to Karina in just a second, but just 4 asks before I do that. just please, whatever you do down the road, please consider investing in solar, and supporting companies like Ampion that are actually getting us to the goal line. It is amazing how many companies there are out there, and many of them doing very good work. Ampion is actually a benefit corporation, which means that it not only has a goal of making a profit. Karina can tell you more about this than I can, but it also has goals to do with helping our society and the environment, which it's a new form of corporation that's just incredible. So yeah, just spread the word. If you yourself sign up for community solar or get panels on your roof, spread the word and let other people know that this is possible. And if you haven't already, please do join Sustainable Putnam. Think about becoming, an active member and participate. We could really use some more volunteer help. We've gotten a lot done in 1 year remotely, but we could get a lot more done with the assistance of a few volunteers. Just an hour or two a week would be great. Okay, so, oh shoot, Karina, I did not make you co-host. So yeah, so let me.
There's a message in the chat from Stephen, which is entirely true, right? That the community solar companies, the developers are receiving tax incentives from New York State, and actually community solar is kind of a way of democratizing the tax incentives to make sure that some of that is passed along to the subscriber. But Stephen, you're actually absolutely right that that is one of the benefits of installing the panels on your roof. If you do have that option, is then you directly receive those tax incentives yourself.
Right.
Are you able to make me co-host, or should
I just did while you were chatting.
Okay, great.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for taking that question or that comment.
Okay. All right, so I have a little presentation. Some of it, will echo a lot of what you said, Joe. But also, since there are so few of us, I would love to keep it kind of conversational and, pause for questions or discussion along the way. I don't have a ton included in the slide deck. Let's see. Just want to read this comment from Stephen. Sure, yeah, budget billing actually is not affected by community solar, and I can kind of describe why as we walk through how the program works. Let me just pull up my slide deck and share my screen. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, great, okay. Well, Joe introduced me already, but I'll introduce myself again. My name is Karina. I do work for Ampion Renewable Energy, and we're really excited to be partnering with Sustainable Putnam. I'm especially excited being a resident of Putnam County. I love that there is a group like this in my county, and that Joe is putting so much into efforts to really engage the community and help us all kind of get thinking a little differently and a little more forward. And like Joe said, we are, Ampion is a public benefit corporation, which means that, yes, we are for profit, but it's actually written into our bylaws that we have to consider other factors in our business decisions, such as ensuring that we're benefiting the communities we serve, that we're benefiting our employees, that we're benefiting the environment. All of that is written into our bylaws. So it's an interesting kind of new way to have both a for-profit corporation, but to ensure that that corporation has to be of benefit to the community and act ethically as well. So I would love to start just by asking all of you, you know, how many of you have solar panels, and, you know, if any of you had tried. I'd be curious to hear kind of the feedback of that process. You know, we don't all have to answer, but if anyone wants to chime in. And if not, that's okay too. Yeah.
I do.
Okay,
Oh, go ahead.
so this is Bill Josker with my wife Janet. We live in Brewster, New York. We've lived here about 22 years or so. So a couple of years ago, there was a company coming around offering to install solar panels on your home. So we investigated that. And there were a bunch of issues, including having to remove trees to get the right level of sun to make it really economical. But the real bottom line of their business plan and their contract, which was a heavy pressure sales job, it was all about them making money. In fact, in the contract, they were guaranteed, I think it was a 3% rate increase every year over the life of the panels. I mean, the utility company doesn't even get that, and electricity doesn't increase that much. So it was really, I thought, a ripoff. So, and we tried that twice with two different companies, and it was the same deal. So we backed away from it.
Interesting. Yeah. That is a super interesting story. Thank you for sharing.
Karina, there's a
Yeah.
David Levitt in the chat says he has had a 6.3 kilowatt photovoltaic system for almost 13 years.
Wow. Okay. I'm afraid I can't see the chat anymore. I think that's because
okay.
I am sharing my presentation.
And I have one as well. So I think it's 7.2 kilowatt system I've had for less than a year.
Okay. 13 years. That's pretty ahead of the game there.
Yeah.
I'd like to add, you might want, Bill, you might want to explore other solar companies, because it's been my experience. I run an energy engineering firm, and we frequently work with solar companies, and it's been my experience that not all of them, like, I understand they want to make a profit, but not all of them are as fair as they should be to the clients. So it's kind of like a buyer's beware. There are good solar companies out there that will give you a fair price. So, I'd encourage you to keep looking.
It's a market that changes pretty rapidly.
Yeah. And I mean, the energy industry is a very interesting one in general, because there are a lot of really reputable companies doing good things, and then there are a lot of the opposite. And if you happen to run into one of the opposite, then it kind of puts you off of the whole thing for good.
House just isn't
Right.
viable.
Well, the other thing is the amount of trees that we would have to remove to get the right level. So that's, if there was a significant gain associated with that, we would consider it. But chopping down trees is in our view, not a good thing. So we were more interested in the solar farm arrangement, and
Right.
We've gotten many, I guess, advertisements or approaches in the mail through association with NYSEC, and I got to say, from a person who's not involved in the details of that, it's very hard to figure out if it's a real deal or a scam.
Yes.
Even when you talk to the people, which I've done on 2 occasions, because you're not talking in real money, they're talking credits.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't leave you feeling comfortable that you're actually going to gain something.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't sign up.
Okay. Well, great. We'll keep going through the presentation, and I will address that aspect of things, and I would love to hear you speak up if you have questions when we get there, and see if I can address them maybe in a way that they haven't been addressed before. No promises, but I'll do my best. Okay, so Joe spoke about this a little bit already. This is kind of the why of community solar, right? In 2014, New York State launched this initiative called Reforming the Energy Vision, really intended to transform the way electricity is produced, bought, and sold in the state. And there have been, numerous goals, policies, and initiatives associated with reforming the energy vision. I've just listed a few of them here. These are specifically the ones that kind of tie in with community solar. And one of these Joe mentioned already, ensuring that 70% of the state's electricity is generated by renewables by the year 2030, which is coming up quickly. So there's a lot of work to do to get there. And then, as Joe also addressed already, and we just spoke about, rooftop solar doesn't work for anyone, or everyone. And in fact, countrywide, 80% of Americans are not eligible for traditional rooftop solar. So in order for the state, right, to reach its own goals, it needs to make sure that everyone has access to renewable energy in some capacity, which means making sure that it's accessible, affordable, that it's not only available to homeowners, not only available to homeowners with, without trees or with a brand new roof, etc. And so that is where community solar comes in. I know you're all here because you've heard of community solar. You've probably gotten many mailers, maybe phone calls even, and it can be, rather confusing at first. And it also can sound a little bit too good to be true. And especially if you've had some, poor experiences with maybe suppliers or ESCOs in the past, it definitely can sound like a scam. I completely empathize with that. What community solar does do is solve for many of the issues that reforming the energy vision is focused on, because there are no upfront costs to participate in community solar. There's nothing to install, right? These farms are built off-site within the utility territory. So you don't have to own your home. You don't have to have an eligible roof. The program will never increase the participants' cost, right? So when you enroll with community solar, there will never ever be a time that you're paying more for electricity than you would have if you didn't enroll. And it also creates grid resiliency, which, may not be of interest to everyone who enrolls with the program. But given that, we are kind of a group of people who are thinking sustainably, I do think it's worth mentioning. Locally produced power means that the electricity grid is less vulnerable, especially with storage systems that are kind of coming into play. We're able to reduce outages, which can be really important, especially within, kind of more vulnerable areas, making sure that power is still available for, hospitals, etc. Any questions so far? I want to kind of pause from time to time, just so I'm not droning on and you're not all falling asleep. I would love to hear any questions or feedback, and if there are none, I'm happy to keep going.
Just out of curiosity, where are your solar farms?
Yeah, so the solar farms that are available for NYSEG subscribers, I'm assuming that we're all NYSEG. Is that maybe not the case?
I'm not sure exactly, who's signed up,
Okay.
but if we're Putnam, it's
Sure.
most of us are NYSEG and some of us are Central Hudson, but I think,
Okay. Yeah, so what I will say is that the solar farm has to be built within the utility territory. So for a Central Hudson customer, the solar farm that they will be assigned to has to be within the Central Hudson utility territory. So the Central Hudson farms are in places like Ellenville, Ulster County, the town of Catskill. The NYSEG farms are further upstate because we have this funny little pocket of NYSEG downstate in Putnam County, a little bit in Westchester County. So the farms, upstate, there's much more space to, much more, fallow farmland to build these farms on. So our NYSEG farms that NYSEG subscribers are assigned to are pretty far upstate. I am forgetting the exact town. I remember telling Joe it, and it was a town that I was not pronouncing correctly, but I believe up in, the kind of the
So Finger Lakes region?
I believe so, and I can certainly get back to you with real information. We have a number of solar farms for the NYSEG territory that are all, upstate on farmland in weirdly named towns that I've never been to. But I can certainly follow up with you and give you some better information than that vague answer. Any other questions or comments at this point?
Hi, it's Janet, Bill's wife.
Hi.
And I was originally part of the Sustainable Putnam, some of your early meetings, but haven't been that active. We've seen a lot of solar farms going up along Route 22 into this in Columbia. Are those a different company?
They very well may be. So, it's really interesting, especially right now. There's kind of an explosion. And there has, it's been growing very exponentially since this program really launched about 5 years ago. So I personally, whenever somebody is enrolling and they ask me, where is your solar farm? I have to go to our list and kind of cross-reference, where are you? What are you going to be assigned to? Because there really are so many of them at this point, which is a great thing.
Oh, yeah. Okay. No, it's good. It's just because that's not too far. It's just about an hour up the line. All right, good.
And I can provide, after the meeting, I can provide Joe with some details that he can send out to all of you.
Great.
Okay. So they are built now or are in the process of being built?
We have farms with availability right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Plus
Now,
you're
That is a fair question.
building additional ones, right?
Oh yeah, both are happening at the same time.
Okay.
We're filling the farms that are available, and then building additional ones because, once a farm is full, it's full, it's done. So we have to be kind of doing both simultaneously.
Okay. I saw.
Karina, David asked, will you be moving to erect installations over parking lots rather than on potentially productive agricultural properties?
Good question. I don't know the answer to that.
I asked
certainly-
that too a while back.
Yeah. I don't know. I love that question and I love that idea, and I've seen it in a number of places, kind of on a smaller scale. But I imagine so. I mean, I don't think anything is off the table, especially given how much capacity the state is expecting to have built over the next 9 years. There's only so much land, right, without starting to use up land that could be useful for other things like farming, or without having to cut down trees. We're going to have to get creative because the communities are the communities that the solar farms are being built in tend to be very involved in the decision making and making sure that these farms are being built in environmentally conscious ways.
I was gonna ask another question, and that was put in the chat. Why not rooftops? But I want to interject something. I think that, and this is my opinion. I think that fallow farmland, meaning farmland that's not being used to farm right now, is cheaper and easier to build on than existing parking lots, which is, you can kind of imagine that, right? If you're going to be doing construction in a parking lot that's being used, it's going to take up space. The parking lot will be unusable while the construction is going on. It's more expensive because the scaffolding has to be high enough for cars to drive under and so forth. Whereas if you're using fallow farmland, there's nothing there, right? Except probably, weeds, I guess. So you can go in, you can build, there's nothing in the way. It's soil that you're driving piles into. And I know, because I asked Karina this also, they're not using cement piles that would be harder to extract if the land, once the lease is over with the farmer, it's easier to pull out wood piles than cement piles, pilings. And return the land to agricultural use. But I would imagine that, as Karina suggested, more is going to be needed, that as those fallow farms get filled up, parking lots are going to become much more desirable. And I know that one of our sister organizations in Rockland County has been doing a study actually of parking lots, and they've particularly focused on Metro North parking lots, which tend to be pretty expansive. Anyway, so Karina, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's
been there, but-
wonderful. Thank you. And I think that's all true. And, right now there is a lot of fallow farmland that, these farmers are not making any kind of money off of. And so kind of the prospect of, leasing that land for solar panels to be built on, I mean, it's beneficial to everyone involved. But again, I think that there is a lot of brainstorming and thinking and figuring out going on right now, so that New York State can reach this really lofty goal. 70% renewables in 9 years is a big goal. And then 10 years later to get to 100%, things are going to have to be figured out, certainly.
Right.
Now, I'm already in community solar. Can you speak to any incentives or that, things that are being offered to cause people to switch?
Not necessarily. Typically the offering from company to company is the same. I know there are still at least one community solar company is still offering a 5% savings, whereas the going rate is 10%. In this case, because we're partnering with Sustainable Putnam, and I will get to this at the end, but for everyone who enrolls through Sustainable Putnam's landing page, we are donating $100 to Sustainable Putnam, so Joe can use that money to further his initiatives. But as far as kind of a customer incentive to try to get you to switch from one company to another, I don't know of anything like that exists.
Karina, Christine has said that she commented that she's new to this whole thing and isn't really sure what we're talking about when we say 10%, 5%. So maybe we can talk about the discounts.
Yeah, certainly. We are just about there.
Good question, Christine.
Yeah, so we'll get into how it works now. How does community solar work? This is kind of a slide to show the mechanics of it a little bit. We've been discussing these solar farms, these solar fields that are built often on fallow farmland or landfills. these large scale farms are built, the solar panels, you know, they produce electricity, which then goes onto the utilities electric grid, just like any other kind of electricity generated by a power plant would. And then that electricity goes to power all of the homes and commercial entities and schools and, you know, town light fixtures, everything within that utility grid area. So regardless of where you are within the utility territory, you're still getting the same power. So whatever's going into the grid, that's what you're getting, right? No electricity is specifically ever going to your house, unless of course you have kind of an arrangement where you have solar panels and you are off grid. That's a different situation. And then because of the renewable energy vision that we talked about earlier, the New York initiative, right, there is this additional value for joining a solar farm. I am now able to see the chats. Stephen is saying he got 10% from solar farms after saying he was switching companies. Received 1,000 free kilowatt hours, but had to wait a year for the farm to be constructed and producing. That's a good tip. Yeah, and if, you know, if there is kind of interest in finding out more, I'm sure that, you know, you can find out what you may offer if you threaten to switch. I know I've done that with with say my internet company, and it has worked, but I don't know internally kind of what we offer for something like that. So that's the mechanics of how community solar works, you know, with the grid. This is kind of a very high level look. And next we'll look at kind of how it works for you. So when you sign up for a community solar subscription, as we call them, what we do at Ampion is we look at your past 12 months of usage history. We take that usage history just as a baseline to assign you a share of the solar farm. So enough of the solar farm that you will have your annual usage covered. Just like we said before, the solar farm produces electricity that goes onto the grid. And the utility takes that electricity and turns it into monetary credits. So those credits are automatically applied to your utility bill. So it shows up as a separate line item. It's a negative line item that reduces the amount you owe to the utility. And then Ampion bills you for that monetary credit, but at 90 cents on the dollar. So essentially you're saving 10% on the monetary value of the credits that were applied to your bill. And we'll get into that a little more on the next slide, where I have an actual bill to look at. I just pressed the wrong button. There we go. So this is an example NYSEG bill, an actual bill. And you will see here the customer owed $121.96 to the utility. But because the utility tracked and metered the power generated by the solar farm subscription, this customer then received $121.96 worth of credits on their bill, which reduced the amount that they owed to the utility to zero. So their community solar subscription zeroed out their NYSEG bill. They then have to pay NYSEG nothing. And you'll see below, that is an Ampion invoice. Ampion billed that same customer for those $121.96 worth of credits, but at 90 cents on the dollar. So instead of paying a total of $121.96, this customer only paid $109.76, so saving 10% off of their electricity bill total. And I know if this is the first time you are hearing this, it can sound a little confusing. So I would love to hear from anyone who has questions, who is a little confused, who wants me to kind of go back and explain things maybe in a different way. Yes, Bonnie.
Would it make sense for somebody who's looking to do this to first try to get their supply from an ESCO and negotiate it as low as possible and then sign up for community solar so that they can get a deeper discount?
So you can certainly do both. It doesn't have to be done in any specific order. You can be enrolled in community solar and receiving credits and then sign up for an ESCO. They can happen simultaneously, but you don't have to do one before the other or vice versa. Good question.
What I like about yours is the one bill with the both charges on it shown there, the credits and the charges. Right now, my community solar company bills me separately and I
Yeah.
see the credit on.
So this might look a little misleading. So thank you for bringing that up because it is a separate invoice. Right now, that is how the utility operates. So we don't have net crediting yet in NYSEG. No community solar, NYSEG does not offer net crediting,
Okay.
which would mean the consolidated bill. There are, I believe, plans of net crediting sometime in the future. It's very hard with utilities to say when these kinds of things will actually come to fruition. But I appreciate you bringing that up because this does look like it's all on one bill and that is not the case. Essentially, you get your NYSEG bill with the credits applied. So it reduces the amount or zeroes out the amount that you owe to the utility. And then Ampion invoices you for the credits at a 10% discount.
Corinna, what happens, like we're on a budget plan?
Yeah.
And we have a fixed amount throughout the year. So how would that work? How would that work?
Yeah, so how that would work is, we'll be able to look back at your usage history and your payment history and assign you a portion of the solar farm enough to cover that, the 12-month usage. And then, just like you see here, the credits will be applied to your bill, whether you are on budget billing or not. The great thing about the community solar program in New York is that if your share of the solar farm overproduces, you're not going to have to pay for those credits, but they will be saved up for later in case there's a time when your share of the solar farm is underproducing or your usage goes way up. Those credits can be applied at a later date. So you'll just receive, the credits that you receive, right? So whether it covers your entire, the cost of your bill or not, it won't affect your budget billing except that, it will reduce the amount that you owe to the utility and then you will have to pay for those credits at the 10% discount.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I see some questions in.
Right. I answered Christine's question in the chat.
Okay.
She's asking if you pay community solar or instead of NYSEG, and it's kind of yes and no. I mean, you might,
Right.
in your example, you might wind up paying just your community solar company, but there might be months like January where the solar farm isn't that productive, so you're paying NYSEG, but maybe you've got credits banked from
Right.
July or August or September.
So what we try to do when we are assigning the shares of the solar farm to the subscribers is we try to assign enough to cover at least 90% of that customer's historical usage. So over time, we want to get them to 100%, but we start with 90% because if we're over assigning and then we're just banking up credits that nobody's paying for, they end up kind of being wasted.
Right.
So, right, like say if you have a $100 NYSEG bill and you receive $90 worth of credits on that bill, you'll still owe NYSEG $10.
Right. And then there's a couple of other questions. I think that they might be the same question. The credit offsets both the generation and delivery portions of the NYSEG
Yeah.
bill?
It offsets the whole entire bill. all
Okay.
charges on the bill.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, not just supply. So because they're monetary credits, they kind of just act like money.
That's
So
good
they
to
can
know.
be applied to the whole thing.
All right.
This tends to be the kind of stickiest part for people. So keep the questions coming if you have any more.
Mute.
Okay.
All right. I think we're good.
So I have a question. Do
Yeah,
you
sure.
you have to sign up for 100, basically 90% solar, or you can go for a lower percentage? We're already signed up for wind power.
Oh,
So
okay. Is that through an ESCO?
it's through NYSEG.
Right. Okay. Yeah, you can do both. Right. So you can keep your wind power through NYSEG, and you can sign up for community solar credits.
Okay, so I'm just gonna, because I'm a bottom line type of guy.
Mhm.
So the bottom line is if we sign up for this, basically 90% of our power will be coming from solar. Is that correct?
Yes
Really?
and no.
Really, if all conditions work out right.
Yeah. So your power is still coming from the electricity grid, from NYSEG's grid,
yeah,
which is a combination of wherever they're getting their power from. But when you sign up for community solar, you will start to receive these community solar credits on your bill. So yes, you will be supporting local renewable energy, and you will be saving some money.
Well, see, my interest in doing this is to reduce carbon. It's not to
Yeah.
save, it's not to
Okay.
save 10 cents on the dollar. So I want to know that the generation from the solar farm is going to offset burning oil,
Oh, yeah.
coal, natural gas.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay, good,
Yes.
good.
The funny nuance is because so you can get really in the weeds on this, but essentially it's cleaning up NYSEG's grid, right? So the more community solar farms that are built, the less they need to buy electricity from natural gas or from coal, etc. So yes, absolutely, is eliminating carbon emissions. The funny thing is because it's not rooftop solar, and you are simply joining a community distributed solar farm, you can't personally say, right, my carbon footprint is lower. NYSEG's carbon footprint is lower. New York State's carbon footprint is lower. And you are directly making that happen. It's just a funny little nuance that, right, like if I'm talking to, let's say a big housing development and they use a ton of electricity and they want to be able to put a little sign in their window that says, we use solar power. They can't actually do that, unfortunately. They support solar power. They're making sure that solar power is growing in the state. But because it is community distributed generation, shared solar farm, that's really benefiting the utility and the state. The utility and the state are able to make those claims, but the individual is not, which it doesn't sound like you necessarily care about as long as it's making sure that the carbon emissions are going down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
we're
the
we're
same-
still gonna put a sign up on our front lawn.
That's fine.
and no one can stop you.
I
Don't
can't
stop you.
control what you do.
I feel the same way, Bill.
Yeah.
It's very similar to if you sign up with an ESCO that produces green energy, right? Green electricity. Those electrons aren't going directly to my house, but I'm adding that to the grid. I'm
Yeah.
Right.
making that happen, as Karina put it.
Yeah.
So I can feel good about that.
I understand that. I operated the largest power plant in New York for a while, so
Oh.
I understand that.
Wow.
The other question is, so
You guys
As
both
things
with power plant.
Indian Point,
Oh, wow.
Carbon free.
carbon free.
Right. We have to talk because I think I know some people you worked with.
Yeah, probably so.
All right.
As time goes on, things change, and what looks ideal today may not be so ideal in the future. What are the contractual commitments once you enter into this arrangement?
Yeah, that's on the next slide, actually.
Oh,
So-
good. I'll shut up then. I'll go back on mute. Thank you.
There are some questions in the chat, though. I'm having a funny time with this chat.
Christine asked, oh, I'm sorry, I skipped a couple. Yeah, Marcia, I agree with you. I mean, I thought these were a scam, and until I investigated and learned more from people that know more than me about this stuff. Yeah, there are a lot of companies out there. Ampion, I can tell you that Sustainable Putnam, our steering committee researched Ampion to make sure that it was a reputable company and that they do what they say they do, including only, not like cutting down forest land for solar farms, not, leasing from active farms and so forth. So I can tell you that Ampion is a reputable company. And there are others out there as well. In terms of it being different than net metering, I would say yes, it is different than net metering in that the solar company is the one that's really doing the metering in a sense, and they're doing it for the whole grid rather than for your home. I know, Karina, do you want to jump in on that one?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it is. It's just a different program. It's a monetary program that is, essentially these solar farms are being built as power plants for the grid, for the utility grid, in order to offset the need for, the utility to purchase electricity coming from a natural gas plant in New Jersey.
I just, I want to jump back in because I just realized an angle here that David might be getting at. It is similar to net metering in that the utility has to buy the electricity produced by the solar farm, but only if that solar farm has subscribers that are customers of the utility, and that's where we come in. Would you say that that's accurate, Karina?
Yeah, yes, I would. Yeah.
So they get us to buy the power from them, they being, Ampion gets us NYSEG customers to buy the power from them. Then NYSEG has to buy that power from the solar farm and add it to their grid, to the power going through their grid. So in a sense, it is kind of, it uses a similar mechanism as net metering, which is, for those who don't know what net metering is, boy, we're getting into the weeds here. Net metering is what you would use if you had solar panels on your roof and you're not using all of the power being generated on your roof. It's going back into the grid, and your electric meter keeps track of what's going into the grid and that you're not using. Actually, it all goes into the grid and you use some power. So yeah, it is similar to net
In a
metering.
way, it's similar because the utility is tracking.
As I'm
Right.
talking aloud, I'm
Yeah.
thinking like, yeah.
Yeah.
You're right,
It's
David.
it's
Yeah,
different for the end user, which is the subscriber, but it's similar for the utility.
Right. And Christine, yeah, no hidden fees. I mean, that was the first thing I checked. Yeah, there's no.
And we'll get into that on the next slide
Okay.
as well.
There we go.
All right. Okay. So this is really a very simplistic overview of the whole program. This is all there is to know. It is, when you enroll, you're enrolling for a 5-year term, although this term is completely arbitrary because you can stay, your term will auto renew for the lifetime of the farm, which can be 20 or 30 years, or you can leave at any time. So why we make a 5-year term, I really don't know. It just perhaps sounds good. But the contract that you sign, which details the 10% discount on credits, that is good for the lifetime of the solar farm. And these solar farms, the solar panels are under warranty for 20 years and often last a lot longer than There are no fees at all. You're only ever paying for the credits that were applied to your bill, and you're only ever paying for those credits at 90 cents on the dollar. We do ask for a 90-day cancellation notice. That's only because it takes the utility about that time to process the paperwork. There are a few requirements here. You have to have a valid utility account. I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer. Annual usage has to be above 1,000 kilowatt hours, which is, you know, almost everybody, but that's actually a state program requirement. We do require that subscribers enter their payment information, because we do enroll you in auto pay. You know, you're only ever charged after you have been invoiced by the utility. And then we, you know, just have you DocuSign a contract that is basically outlining exactly what is said here. I see a chat pop up. What is the procedure to switch suppliers since there's a 90-day notice? That's a very good question. I don't actually know the answer to that. So I will have to kind of look into that one. I would imagine that, you know, you may have to give that 90-day notice, and then once you stop receiving the credits, you enroll with the other company, but I don't know for sure. So I will write that down to research for you.
I'm going to save the chat to Karina. if that's
Oh, okay, great. Perfect. Any questions on this slide?
Yes. So what do we do when we sell our house after we've signed up for this?
Yeah, you can cancel.
Okay. Is it transferable?
No, the new tenant would have to enroll with their own utility account information.
Okay, but let's say we stayed in the NYSEC area and moved to different residences.
Yeah.
This would be canceled and we would start a new one.
If you're moving within the same utility area, we can transfer it. We would just have to look at, you know, we'd have to look at the information for the location that you're moving to adjust your allocation to the solar farm.
Great.
And Marcia asked, what if the town or county creates a community? I think you mean community choice aggregation. That's a good question. I know the answer to that one. That would not be a problem, because community choice aggregation is really like a collective ESCO choice by the community. So you'd have that ESCO, but you could still have community solar. And as a matter of fact, I wasn't going to bring it up, but Karina and I are actually talking about the possibility of doing community choice aggregation and community solar in Putnam County. It would have to be a town by town thing, but it's actually possible to do both and kind of bundle them together. So yeah, there'd be no conflict there.
Yes, never a conflict with having an ESCO or a third-party supplier. You can always do both. Let's see, Stephen said it would seem that a 90-day startup notice could be given to the new supplier at the same time. That sounds right. You know, typically when you do enroll for the community solar program, it takes 2 to 4 months to start seeing the credits on your bill, because again, it takes the utility that much time to process the paperwork. So it sounds right that you could give 90-day notice to your current community solar company and at the same time enroll with another. But again, I don't know for sure. And Joe will save the chat so I can research some of this after the fact. Anything else?
Oh, is there a credit check for signing up?
Yeah, there's a soft credit check. Yes, that is a good question.
Because I know, yeah, I've heard that there is, so with different companies, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, it's a soft check, so it doesn't affect the credit. I believe it just requires a minimum of a 600 score.
Can I ask 2 questions?
Sure.
Go for it.
The first question was, you said you had to enroll in auto pay.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
You can't just send a check or a transfer. You'd have to do the auto pay.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. And you can do, why? Because, essentially we are dealing with billing thousands and thousands and thousands of subscribers, and just to
Uh-huh.
make sure that everything's running efficiently, and we're not, having to try to collect payment after the fact and chase people down, which wouldn't happen with you, but it would
No, of
happen with
course not.
people.
Well, the other question was, if you have a dispute about the amount of your bill, that would go through NYSEG then, not through you guys, correct?
If you have a dispute about the anything regarding your credits, you would
Right.
contact us.
Credits for you, but say in your electric usage, because I've seen people in our
Yeah.
area like getting slammed the last couple of months
Yeah.
with outrageous bills,
Yeah.
that would have to go through NYSEG, right?
Yeah, you'd still go to NYSEG for the things that you typically go to them for. Right?
Okay.
So if your usage looks off, you would contact them. If your power's out, you'd contact them. But if there was ever something that you had a question about regarding the credits, then you would call us.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And Stephen has a question. I'll just read it out loud. Do you have to unfreeze credit accounts? I'm not really sure what
I'm
Stephen's
not
asking.
sure what that means.
Stephen, do you want to unmute or explain your question?
Well, you said they're going to do a soft check on your credit.
Yes.
Line up. Can they do that if your credit accounts are frozen?
Oh,
Oh, like frozen from doing credit checks.
Well, at least from doing hard credit checks. I don't know about soft ones.
I don't know.
I don't know either. So I will again look into that as well. I'm not really sure what a frozen credit account means exactly.
It means you can't have anybody take out a credit card.
Oh, okay.
If They
Gotcha.
can't check, and a credit card company can't do a full check
Right.
on a hard check on your credit and issue
see.
a card. It's a safety if you don't expect.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm gonna guess that the answer is no, because I was actually in that situation. I had my, personal identification was stolen. It was not stolen. It was somebody hacked into. It was actually the IRS, believe it or not. Their I forget exactly which division it is. It's the one that you apply to for financial aid for your child.
FAFSA.
Yes, they got hacked, and my identification and social security number got stolen, and it was a huge hassle. Anyway, I bought a car, an electric car, while I had my credit check, frozen like that, and there was no problem. So I'm guessing they only did a soft credit check. That's my guess.
That sounds right.
I had a lease and I believe I had to unfreeze. And recently, even to open a checking account, I had to unfreeze credit. I was a little surprised,
Yeah. Oh,
especially since I had a credit card with that company.
wow. But that's not a big deal to unfreeze it, right? To give them permission to check your credit.
It is 3 accounts,
Okay.
potentially.
Okay. I can
know which one.
definitely find out for sure. We are almost there. We're a little over time. So I'll do this last one real quick.
Okay.
This is, essentially when you enroll, receive access to Ampion's online portal. You'll have your own account to sign in. You'll be able to see everything you need to see, your savings year to date, and on an ongoing basis, the electricity production of your portion of the solar farm, and then your environmental impact as well.
That's nice.
And then lastly here, next steps. Like I said, we're really super excited to be partnering with Sustainable Putnam. You know, we try to partner with organizations that are, you know, doing the type of work that we're doing, mutually beneficial. So you can certainly enroll through this web address here, ampion.net/Sustainable Putnam. I imagine Joe will be sharing this information. I think it's already been shared in the invitation to this meeting. But signing up through this specific landing page is what will allow us to make that donation to Sustainable Putnam on your enrollment's behalf.
Yeah, I'm putting that right in the chat, actually.
Great. And then that money will be used for Sustainable Putnam initiatives. And I know you have kind of a lot on the docket. Joe, I don't know if you want to speak to any of that, but this is the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Karina. Yeah, among other things, we are, you know, paying to have our website rebuilt. The young man who did it the first time did it, you know, as a volunteer, but he's going to college. He needs some money, and he's got great skills, and we're paying him peanuts. I could never get that quality of work from a professional. I mean, I could never afford to pay a professional for what he's doing for us. And he's also helping me, you know, connect with all kinds of apps like Eventbrite and MailChimp and so forth, so that everything's integrated and it all kind of happens behind the scenes. That is one thing. We're also, you know, looking into other initiatives. I was speaking today with Councilwoman McDonough from the town of Carmel about community solar, actually, and Clean Energy Communities Initiative. So it's great that they're interested. I don't know if anybody else here lives in Mahopac, but they're actually installing electric vehicle chargers in Mahopac and Carmel now. So that's huge. And you know, I think that you know, things are beginning to shift, and you know, even you know, representatives who you might not guess are aware of these things are becoming aware of it. And you know, I'm offering Sustainable Putnam services to inform and educate them, and they seem to be open to it. So I think we're on our way.
It's fantastic.
It's great.
Karina, thank you so much for being here, for your time, and for answering all those questions.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And I just want everyone to know you have my contact information. I believe it was provided in the chat. Feel free to reach out to me if you have additional questions or want help walking through the enrollment process, and then I will take all the questions that I couldn't answer and get you some answers.
Before you sign off, Karina, can
Yeah.
I ask you, I get basically two questions. What is the downside risk to the subscribers like ourselves? Is there any that we should understand? And the second part is, it's such a good deal. How come everybody's not beating down your door?
On the first question, no, there really is no risk at all. You know, there's no, you're not paying for anything except for the credits that you're getting, and you're always getting them at a discounted rate. So you're never ever going to be paying more. You're never going to be stuck if you want to leave. And you're always going to be contributing to the growth of local renewable energy. So no, and that's the that's the biggest kind of roadblock, which is funny, but that we get is people say, what is the downside? There needs to be a downside, otherwise I don't believe you.
If I could address the second part of Bill's question, I think the reason people aren't beating down Karina's door is that it's just kind of not, I don't want to say lethargy, but just, it takes initiative to make the switch. It's kind of like I don't know if you've ever shopped for insurance. It's a pain in the neck, you to get estimates. And it's kind of the same thing with community solar. I mean, look at how complicated it is. It's actually very simple to do, but to understand it, I mean, after 1 hour, I'm sure some of you are going to walk away and say, like, I still don't really get it, right? I mean, it took me a long time to really grasp it. So I think it's just complicated. And for most people, it's just kind of easier to continue doing what they've been doing.
Yeah, I do. I think that's true, Joe. I think that without taking the time to really, to spend over an hour going through the program, how it works, why you do it, and actually having your questions addressed, it can feel really daunting. And then I think the other thing that came up earlier is we're kind of inundated with offers, right? It's all the same offer from different companies. How do you choose one? It's easier just to not.
Right.
So it's a little bit of decision paralysis. This all looks the same. I don't know which cereal to buy. It's 15 kinds of Cheerios. I guess I'll just walk away.
Well, this is good with
No,
sustainable.
I think this was excellent. And, I just have a suggestion. The ability to do this on Zoom and have the visuals from an engineer's point of view was immensely helpful. Talking to an agent of the company over the phone, having them try to explain this. And as soon as they use the word credits, my antennas go up. I mean, talk to me about dollars. I understand that.
Right.
Credits, I don't understand, because credits can change. So the visuals are immensely helpful. So you've convinced me. So you're going to have to send the $100 in, because we're going to sign up.
That's wonderful. And that's really great feedback. Thank you, Bill.
Okay.
Thanks, Bill. Yeah, and I have recorded this, but I think we might wind up, if Corinne is willing, I think we might wind up doing this presentation again and
Absolutely.
get the word out there to, the far reaches of Putnam County, because more people should be seeing this and learning about it. And I think if we can, partner with town governments and have them promote it as an opt-in program, I think that would be awesome too. There are towns in New York State that are doing this, in fact, with Ampion.
I'll give you a suggestion. You can take the I call it a roadshow, to, let's say, the Elks, local men's clubs, women's clubs, those type of things. They love to hear this kind of stuff, especially with the visuals. And it's good for the environment. It's good for the local community, and it's good for the individuals. What's the bad part?
That's a good suggestion. I wrote it down. Yeah,
Okay.
Rotary.
I will address David's question right now, because I seem to have left this out of my presentation completely, and I'm so sorry. I will add it in for the next one. But the answer is no. If you have rooftop solar, you're actually not eligible for community solar. That's a state ruling. And I believe that is because community solar is intended to expand the reaches of solar. And if you have rooftop solar, you don't necessarily need community solar, even if you want it.
Yeah, I'm in that boat too, David. Does Ampion work with Con Ed?
Yeah, we actually have a small farm in Con Ed territory right now. It's rather small, so it will fill up relatively quickly, but we do.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks again, everybody, for being here and for the great questions. I've learned from your questions and Karina's answers too. And, again, I put my contact info in the chat. It got kind of garbled there, but you can also, reach me via the sustainableputnam.org website. And I added in the, oh, did I didn't add in the, Google form, did I? I don't know if anybody's interested in that. Let me throw that in there.
In the chat, he's putting it in the chat. How do we get it?
So Joe, everything that you put in the chat, how do we get it?
I can email it to you, or if you, at the bottom of the chat, you see the little 3-dot menu next to the word file?
No, I don't see anything on chat.
Oh,
So if you
I
just
can-
email, I don't want to waste everybody's time.
it's okay. Yeah. Hold on.
We're just looking, I did screenshots of the important screens, so I've already have that, but we just need the information of where to go
Yeah.
to.
I'll send an email to you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay.
And to enroll, it's ampion.net/sustainable Putnam, right there.
Okay, right there. Great, we got that.
Great. All right. Good to meet
Okay,
you.
well, thank
Bill.
you everyone for your time. I really enjoyed this. Thank you. for
Yes.
being
All right.
Thank you. Great job.
Good night.
here.
Good
Good
night.
night, everybody.